Good morning, Facebook. How are you guys doing if you're watching live? Well, I guess if you're watching live, good morning. Thank you so much for hanging out and spending some time with me again this morning on, what day is it, Wednesday? Are you guys losing track of the days the same way that I am? Oh my gosh, I can't keep track of what's happening. And if you're not watching live and if you're watching the replay, good day to you. Good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon. Whatever time of the day it is. We're talking today about running photography classes. So this is something, again, we've been just sort of spitballing all kinds of ideas here on this series of different ways that you can generate revenue, that you can book new clients, that you can increase your business, that you can stay afloat, that you can keep busy, that you can be strategic, that you can pre-plan, that you can be proactive. Just talking about all kinds of different ways and ideas for you to weather this storm and make sure that you are still running a business at the end of it. And when things do go back to normal, and they will go back to normal, that you are still around and that you're able to maintain your client base and so on and so forth. So good morning. Hello, Ulrika. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for coming. Thank you for saying hi. If you're there, let me know that you're there. Let me know how's it going. Gibson Photography, hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Would love to hear from you guys. Love to hear how you're making out, how you've been, implementing different things here, different things that you've learned. Just generally how you're feeling about things. Love to hear from you. Love to hear how you're doing. Today we're going to talk about, hey, Mr. Unger, what is happening? Thanks for hanging out. So we're going to talk about photography classes. Look, this is something I've done many times in my career as a photographer. Obviously now, yes, I teach professional photographers like you, and I have been for probably the better part of 10 years now. But in the past, and even in the past 10 years, I have done, basics of photography classes, and I've done them for beginners, for new moms. I've done them just for everyday people. I've done it in various ways. I've done it as like a weekly thing where I would do it for 5 or 6 weeks, one night a week. I've done it as one day things. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it, lots of different ways that you can use it as a revenue stream. You could even potentially launch it right now if you wanted to and do something online instead. So there's lots of opportunities here, and it's something that might be very worthwhile to pursue as an additional revenue stream for you right now, or at least an additional revenue stream for you to think about kicking up. So what I'm actually going to do is I interviewed Cyrissa. Cyrissa is actually an educator like myself. She has a whole ecosystem and community that she runs called the Sparkle Society, and she has a whole course on how to teach courses. So how to teach courses to non-photographers. And so I brought her on our podcast about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, as this all kicked up. That was one of the first interviews that I had, and I just said, let's bring you on and let's just brainstorm. How can photographers do this right now? What are some strategies? What are some tips? What are some tricks? What are some tactics? Try saying that 5 times fast. And so I interviewed her about this. And so I actually am going to play for you that podcast interview. So there's no video. It's just going to be audio. So feel free to put it on play and go do what you have to do, and you can listen to it. But it was just too good of a discussion for me to try and rehash it out here. So I just thought that I would play it for you, and then I'll come back and we can chat. And if you have questions and that sort of thing, obviously I'm still here, so we can hang out. And you can ask questions and I can answer them. But I just thought it was too good of a conversation to not just replay for you. So I'm going to transition to that podcast now, so you can listen to it here, and then I'll be back at the end. Hey Eric, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back at the end to have more of a discussion, have a conversation, and see where we want to go from here. Okay, so let's go to that podcast, and I'll see you at the end of it.
Welcome to the Business of Photography podcast, powered by Sprout Studio, a studio management suite built for photographers by photographers. This is Expert's Edge, interviews to help you grow your photography business. Here's your host, Bryan Caparici.
and welcome to the Business of Photography podcast. This is episode 426. We've been talking a lot lately about finding different ways to generate revenue in your business. And today's episode is a real treat. It's a great conversation that I'm having with Cyrissa, all about how you can actually generate revenue from teaching photography, and not teaching photography necessarily to other professional photographers, but instead kicking up a photography class, a basics of photography class for you locally. It's a great opportunity. It's something that I've actually done for many, many years. I did it a lot more in my earlier days than I do now, but it has always been a great source of revenue, and it might be a great way for you to generate some money while things are slower and while you're sort of having a lot of cancellations and a lot of reschedules because of the current crisis. So let's transition over to that interview right now and not waste any more time. If you want to get any of the links that Cyrissa and I talk about, getsproutstudio.com/426. Okay, so we're talking about passive income, ways that photographers can generate income outside of actually picking up their camera and photographing their clients. Yes. You obviously have a bunch of ideas. One is doing courses, giving classes to other people. Talk to me about the high level on that.
Absolutely. So you guys, looking at your business and diversifying it is one of the absolute smartest things you can do. And as photographers, we get trapped into this mindset that I'm a photographer, I make money by pushing the button. I make money by creating art. And that is correct. But if you look at all the skills that you have to manage your website, to run social media, to do all of those things, you actually have way more skills than you're giving yourself credit for. And so one of the things that I tell my community that is so smart to do is look at the skills you have and diversify your income streams. Look at the different ways that you can make money using the skills that you've got. And I think I know one of the most brilliant moves for photographers is to teach a beginning photography class. And I know the moment that I say that, some of you are immediately like, nope, not doing it. But you guys have to consider this right now. We are in an unprecedented time. Like I've never seen, right, Bryan? Like I've never seen anything like this.
No, yeah.
Our kids' schools were just shut down for 3 weeks. Like, I'm going to be a homeschooling mama. Like, pray for me. Yeah. Right. And so, this calls for a time for us to look at our businesses differently. And so I'm going to give you guys quickly the context. I've been teaching beginning photography classes for 9 years. Okay. So I've been doing this. I've been in the trenches. I've made all the mistakes. On average, when I teach a beginning photography class, when I fill my full day, meaning I've got a beginning class in the morning and intermediate in the afternoon, I usually pull $2,200 for one day of work. And what's amazing, what's different about this versus actually having a photo shoot is once you do the work one time, you create your curriculum, you create your workbook, you figure out, what kind of snacks you're going to have, because that matters. People need to stress eat. You guys know this. Yeah. I'm like, yesterday, as we're getting the announcements that the schools are closing, like I was completely eating my feelings. My husband walked in the kitchen. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm eating my feelings. And he was like, carry on, honey, carry on.
Don't judge me.
Right. So like I usually have something crunchy. I usually have something sweet. I usually serve mimosas in the morning. But these are all things that make people feel comfortable. But what's amazing is once you create your class, you just get to do it over and over and over. You don't have the travel to the shoot plus all the onboarding. You write emails to onboard them, to tell them what to expect. They show up to class, you teach, they leave, you're done. And it's magical. And what's amazing about this, and I think one of the things that I hear pushback from a lot of photographers, they're like, well, aren't I creating my own competition? And aren't I screwing myself out of a job? And no, absolutely not. I mean, the thing that I always say when I hear that, I'm like, I say this with love, but check yourself before you wreck yourself, because you didn't just take one 3-hour photography course and start a business.
Right.
Like that person who's taking that course is not your competition. And if you feel that they are, we have a whole other thing. You need to go talk to Jenica about that. Like there's a whole other thing that you need to unpack there, right? You're not creating your competition. And if anything, you are creating brand evangelists, because the people I find that take my course don't typically hire me for a photo shoot. It's not because they don't like me. It's not because they don't like my work. It's because a lot of times they're DIYers. They were never going to hire me in the first place. They were there because they wanted to learn how to do it. Or maybe they're a small business owner wanting to take photos for their own business. It's a different client. But when you show someone how to take a better photo, when you show someone how to look like a rock star on social media, guess what they're going to do? They're going to tell all their freaking friends about you because you have solved a problem. You have addressed a pain point for them. And so
it's interesting, actually, just quickly about that. I know I've been shooting now for almost 15 years. And in my earlier days, I actually did a number of these kinds of local classes, and it was a revenue generator to start with. So, I mean, there's obviously massive value there, and that's what we're talking about here. But what I found is that it actually did create portrait clients for me.
Awesome.
In my business, because what I found was that I would have all these folks coming to the class thinking like, oh yeah, like I'm just going to learn to shoot like Bryan. And then after they go through it, yes, they learn their camera and they understand it a bit more and they can take better photos, but they realize, yeah, it's not as easy as it looks and it's not as easy as it seems. So I'll do my day-to-day stuff with my kids, but then I'm going to now come to Bryan to do these like, once a year sessions or once every other year sessions. So I got lots of portrait clients out of it. So there is like a trickle effect there potentially.
Absolutely. And every market, you guys, and I tell people this, every market is different. You listening to this are different from me. I was an art teacher for 10 years, and one of my favorite things was having student teachers. And what I would tell them is, I want you to watch me and I want you to see how Cyrissa does it. But then I want you to take that and look at it and be like, okay, well, how does Bryan do it? How does Stacy do this? How does Terry do this? Like, change it and make it your own. There are many ways to do the same thing. So, in right now, in what we're going through as, not even a country, as a world, like globally, what we're going, I mean, that's like mind boggling to talk about and say, but like what we're going through, if we look at this, how can we pivot? Like, have you seen the Friends episode where they have a couch? We're like, pivot. Like, that's like one of my like community's like favorite words. I have a shirt, like the shirt someone sent me, like it has a couch and just says pivot. I'm like, this is amazing.
Love it.
But that's one of the things that we're talking about is how to pivot. So I teach a full, spoiler alert, I teach a full workshop, you guys, about this, but we have a Facebook group just for people who've gone through the class. And even this morning, one of my girls had a photo walk scheduled. That was her like freebie that she offered. It was hey, come meet at this park. We're going to walk together for an hour. I'm going to show you some tips. And then at the end of the class, she gives them like a half off her full workshop, and people buy it. So it was a great sequence. And she was like, okay, so I'm supposed to have this walk in a couple of days. Like, do I do this? Do I reschedule? And so the whole community, we're brainstorming. We're like, well, what if you do it online and do it on Zoom, right? You guys, like, you can do a Facebook Live inside of a Facebook group. You can do a Zoom link. There are so many different ways. Yes, you can get together in small groups, and that's not really a bad thing right now. Okay, that may change in the days and the weeks ahead, but you can do small group classes. You can do a Facebook Live. You can do a Zoom. There are many different ways that you can get out there and do this. And I think we take for granted the skills that we have, the gift that we have. We can pick up a camera. We can look at a scene and be like, okay, I'm going to shoot with my 35. Oh, I'm pulling out the 200. Like, I'm getting the big guns. Like, we know what to do. But I have people sit in my class, and this is the question, Bryan, that they always ask. Like, I start talking about aperture and shutter speed and exposure triangle, and they're like, okay, Cyrissa, I understand what you're saying, but can you just tell me like what shutter speed, what aperture, what ISO I use, just like what's the best one to go, just a general setting. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. Right. And you gotta teach people how to think for themselves. And, when you can solve a problem, everyone has a camera. You guys, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this conversation would be completely different, but everyone has a camera. Those of you who are senior photographers and portrait photographers, you're even seeing this affect your market, because the kids don't want a photo of them with a violin and the beautifully lit backdrop right now. They want storytelling photos. They almost want those personal brand photos. And the reason being is their phones are changing the way photography is in our world. It's changing how we look at it. It's changing how we consume it. It's changing what we want from it. And so everyone is a photographer.
It's funny because I remember back when I would do these classes, everyone would show up with their DSLR because they just got one for their birthday or for Christmas. I would always run them right after Christmas because that was always the big influx.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like everyone would come with that, and that was almost a prerequisite for it. But now it's like, no, you don't need anything. Yeah. Come with your phone, and I'll teach you how to take better pictures on your phone. Yeah. So with that then, like, can you, and I know you have a ton of resources. We're going to link all of them in the show notes in terms of like how you do this. Like you said, you've got a course on teaching how to do the course. So there's all kinds of things. Give me like the high level. If a photographer is just thinking like, give me the basics. I need to generate some cash as soon as all this is over. What's the basics? You know, you put up a class online, obviously some page, you charge X and you try and get Y number of people and you do it. Like what's the basic structure that you'd recommend?
So first step is to have the mental shift.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, you can do this. Number two, you should do this. Number three, people expect you to do this. So any mental objection you have right now, like let it go. Yeah. They're going to buy from you anyways, right? Like let that go. So I know. Do you love that? I
love that. My kids are obsessed. So it's like, it's fine. Yeah.
Chris Scott and I did a video one time and we were singing the what was it? The look at this stuff, but we changed it for photography and like we went on for, it was fantastic. But guys, listen, focus. Okay. So you have to have that mental shift to know that you can do this. Here's the thing that I want you to know. I have done a nationwide survey. We have thousands of people that are non-photographers who have chimed in. And on the survey, one of the questions I asked them was, if I asked you to change your aperture, would you know what button to push? I didn't ask them what aperture does. I didn't ask them to like really explain it. There's multiple choice. And I said, would you know what button to push? 72% of people who answered that survey said they would not even know what button to push. So if you think for a moment that you don't have a skill, that you don't have a gift, that you don't have something to offer, I love you, but you're wrong. So number one, have the mental shift. Number two, you want people to walk away from your class with a great experience, right? We talk about that client journey. If you can walk away giving people an amazing experience, they're going to tell people and they're going to come back for more. Okay. Business 101. So how do we give them a great experience? You teach them to take a better photo regardless of the camera that they have. And I know that we're all snobs and I know that we want the DSLR. I get it. But we have to also be relatable. And so I tell people, come to class with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, something that can shoot in manual, but bring your phone because I'm going to teach you how to do both. Because if you can show someone how to take a better photo on their DSLR and on their smartphones, you have a win. So typically I start with composition. I talk about how to find good light, and I have people hold their hands up in front of their face and we turn different angles so they can see it. And they're like, oh my gosh, right? And those little breakthroughs are everything. And then the third piece is make sure that it's worth your time. Right? You know, there's that price that we all talk about, like what's your get out of bed price? Like what's it going to cost for you to show up? When you first teach your class, it's like when you're building your portfolio, right? Like I'm a big advocate. Like the first time you do it, like throw everything, throw their firstborn at them, fill your class, get people in there, because the more people that are in there, the more people that are going to tell other people about it. Right. Yep. But the thing I want you guys to have in your head is a number. Like, okay, so what is it going to take for me to show up? And you don't have to have a studio. You can meet at a park. You can meet at a Panera or a Starbucks or a Chamber of Commerce. That's where I first started teaching my classes. Meet at one of those places. Look at your expenses and figure out, okay, I need to make, is it $500 to break even? Okay, then what do I need? If I want to get 5 people in there, I think that's a good, healthy first class. Then I need to charge $100 per person. Yeah. Like look at those numbers and have a strategy. Don't just be like, well, I'm gonna teach a class, I guess. Right. Like actually sit down, look at it like a business owner, figure out how you can give people a great experience and know that you have a gift to offer. Do this the same way you run your photography business, you guys. And this is going to be an incredible asset for what you're already doing.
The thing that's so amazing about this is that in a time of crisis like this, when photographers are feeling this, and if you're listening to this, you're probably going through a time in a season of your business and of the year where you are feeling this, and that's why you're tuning into this. This is, you can write your own ticket with this. And I mean, I'd argue that that's the case in your photography business in general, but right now, crisis management, to recover and to get out of this slump that you might potentially be in, this is where, maybe if I were to talk to you 6 months ago, that number might be a little bit different than the number that you're thinking right now. But if you need to put food on the table and $500 will do it for you, go do it. Like, now is the time that you can recover and you can write your own ticket in with this idea and structure the way that makes sense for you.
Yeah. And I think at this time, and I was thinking about this morning, because I know a lot of creatives are nervous, right? And I was talking to a friend about a situation she's in and someone asking for a refund. And I was like, gosh, I'm just disappointed that the person asked for that, because she knows if you don't work, you don't get paid. But at the same time, she needs her. So like, it's this whole catch-22. Yeah. But I think we're in a place where businesses and people, it's hard, but I'm seeing a lot of rallying.
Yeah.
Like even in our, even Bryan and I were talking about this yesterday, like we have a networking group and we're all very vulnerable and very transparent with each other. And there were several people that were like, hey, what can we do to help? And I'm talking to Jenica after this, Bryan was talking to her before this, and like, we are all rallying to help each other. And I think we're going to see that. And I think, the whole concept of discounts and sales, I know that you don't want to devalue your brand, but I feel like right now, if it comes from a place of like camaraderie, like we're in this together. So, and something I'm even looking at, like, okay, well, let's do a mom and me class, because I'm going to be homeschooling for 3 weeks and I'm not the only one. Like, our entire state of Ohio is doing that. So, there's options. And I think this gives us a little bit more wiggle room to say, hey, I know you're looking for something to do. Hey, I know money's tight, but let's bring a little bit of joy in our lives. So here's what I'm doing. Here's my offer for you. Why don't you join me?
Yeah. I love it. Cyrissa, thank you so much for coming on the show here. We're going to link everything in the show notes so everybody can check out what you have to offer, and absolutely stay safe. Thank you again.
Thank you. You as well, guys. See ya.
And there you go. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Cyrissa and it maybe opened your eyes to something that you hadn't previously thought about. We are covering this topic in one of our 14-day marketing challenge series episode lessons. If you're not already in that for the first aid series, come on over to getsproutstudio.com/first aid. Would love to have you over there. We're basically just spitballing a whole bunch of ideas, a new one every single day, of how you can generate some revenue, how you can book more clients, how you can make up for this lost revenue that you might be seeing through this current crisis. Okay, going to close that out because I'm basically just promoting this program that we're doing right now. So that was the podcast. I don't know if you are not a subscriber to the podcast, I encourage you to get on there. That was episode 426. I think we're on episode like 430 now. So there's so much in the podcast for you to go back and listen to. And pretty much everything is evergreen in the sense that you can listen to anything at any point in time and it's always going to be relevant. So we don't really ever talk about like news related things or things that are more time sensitive. It's more always relevant for you. Anyways, what did you guys think? I'd love to hear your feedback on that sort of discussion, that topic. Does that make sense for you? Have you done these photography classes in the past? How have you found them? And is it something that you might consider doing right now? I think it's a really great opportunity to generate some revenue, to generate some interest, to build a client base. It's also, like I mentioned in the podcast, it's also a lead generator. Whenever I've done these in the past, I have always gotten family portrait clients out of it, because I'll have these, like I said in the podcast, I'll have these folks come in, take the class, and realize it's not as easy as it seems, and then they'll become portrait clients of mine. So it's a great way to generate some revenue, now in terms of filling up the class and getting folks in there, but also a great way to market, to be in front of more people for potential new clients. So Tara had a comment here. This is cell phone photography talk right now. I love pushing the limits of our phone cameras. It's amazing what we can do. Yeah, and I mean, the thing is like, I'm seeing a lot of folks right now during this time, a lot of boudoir photographers are doing these FaceTime sessions where they're basically, and I've never actually seen one in terms of how it's done. I've never done one yet, but they'll FaceTime or they'll Zoom call their clients, and then they'll tell their clients, show me your room. Okay, go into, this corner and do this and put the phone down here. Okay, now, move this and do this and do that. And then the photographer will take a screenshot of the FaceTime call and then edit them. And like some of the examples that I'm seeing, I'm like, holy smokes, like that is absolutely beautiful, the work that the photographers are doing, and it's just via a webcam through FaceTime. If we can show that we know how to make that work, I mean, heck, that's a great way to show that we can do an amazing job, with our professional camera, and if we're there, and if we can control the lighting, right? So it's I know it's not photography class, but it's just basically saying, like, we need to start thinking outside of the box. We need to start thinking a little bit differently. We need to start opening our minds to these new ideas, because these are unprecedented times. Everybody is pivoting. You're pivoting. We're pivoting. The government is pivoting. Everybody is pivoting right now. And you need to be adapting to the times instead of sitting on your hands and sort of like waiting for this to be over. That's why we're doing this series. That's why we're so passionate and so gung-ho about trying to help you open up your thought process on these new ideas. Got a question coming in here. And again, if you guys have questions or want to chat about this stuff, like, I'm here. Like, let me know. I'm happy to chat. So Billy's saying, how would you structure these, or what would you include that adds value for the customer? So when I've done these in the past, Billy, it's always been a very simple setup, in the sense of I've done it in two ways. Like I was saying, I've done one where it would be, I think I did Thursday night. So I did 6 Thursday nights in a row for like 2 hours. I think I charged, oh gosh, I'd have to look back and remember what I charged. Maybe it was $500 a person. I don't remember the exact amount, but so here. Let me do that math. So I think it was, let's say it was $500. I don't remember if that was the exact amount, but if I did $500, and I know that I had, I don't know, maybe 20 people that came and joined me every Thursday night. So that's, I don't know why I had to do the math on that. That's $10,000. But so I did that for, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks or something like that. So basically, I ran that for a month and a half, but it was $10,000. I mean, that's not bad, right? Again, considering the times that we're in right now, $10,000 will go pretty far right now in terms of additional revenue. Maybe you run it for 2 nights of the week, right? And you do it for 3 weeks instead, like however you want to structure it. But I did it. That was one way I did it, and the other way that I did it would be like, a Saturday afternoon for 3 hours in my studio, or a Thursday night for 4 hours, or I would just do one deep dive, and I would charge less. I think $150, $200. But again, you fill 20 people in that room, that's still not bad, right? Let's do some math on that. $150 times 20 people, that's still $3,000 for one night. And you do the work, you do it one night, and then you do it again next month, and you can easily generate $2,000 to $5,000 per month just from doing these once a month. So that's like, those are 2 ways I've done it. The other way obviously is to do the online version of it, so you could do an online class. The other way that Cyrissa was talking about in the podcast there is she would do lead gen for it. So you would actually do a free version of it and say, hey, meet me at this park, and we'll do a little photo walk, and I'll teach you. And then at the end, you obviously pitch a course. So there's that way as well. But that would just be different ways that you could structure it. And then Billy, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but if you can clarify, if it doesn't, let me know, and I can hopefully dig into that. But anyways, I hope that gives you guys some new ways of thinking about this, and a different perspective on other ways that we can generate revenue. Again, we're generating revenue with our skill set, with our insight, with our knowledge. It may not be, putting a family in front of your camera, taking their picture, selling them prints. We can't do that right now. And I think we need to get a little bit more creative in how we generate revenue right now. Again, pivoting, right? We need to get creative. We need to think outside the box. That's what this whole series has been about. And there's been, a couple dozen ideas of different ways that you can start to generate money in ways that you may not have thought about before. And so this is just another one of those ideas that might be a good opportunity for you to generate some revenue either now, or start planning for it for when we can be back together with people. You can do this when we're done. I hope that helps. Again, I appreciate you guys being here and showing up every day and joining me on these lives, or if you're watching the replay, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the replay of this. We are kind of winding down the lessons here in this course. We've spitballed a lot of ideas at you, and I kind of want to give you a chance just to breathe and actually execute on these ideas. But I'd love to hear from you in terms of what you would want to have next. We're not going anywhere. We're still here, and we want to continue to add value to your business, to your lives, and help you get through this. So this was just the first program in our way of helping you, giving you marketing and sales ideas to weather the storm and to generate revenue and to book more clients. But what next? What can we help you with next? What are the other challenges that you're having? Is it a challenge in working from home? Is it a challenge in, I don't know, your productivity? Is it a challenge? Are you a Sprout Studio user and you want help getting set up in Sprout? I don't know. But let us know how we can help. Would love to continue to do these lives with you. I enjoy spending time with you guys every day. I hope that it's been valuable for you, and I hope that you've been able to implement some new strategies and help your own business and do some really good, serious work in your business. But let us know. Send us a message on Instagram. Get Sprout Studio is where we're at. And let us know how we can continue to help you, to support you, to provide value for you, and to show up for you every day, and rise that tide a little bit, for everybody, and help you guys out through this crisis. So, thank you so much. Have a great day. I have to keep looking at my computer because I don't know what time or what day it is. Have a great Wednesday if you're watching this live, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye for now.